first and foremost, congratulations on your incredible performance this season. I want to start by asking you, what was the first thing you knew? What was the first thing you knew about Saxon? What was the first thing you read about? And like, did you talk to Mike first? Did you read a script? Like, what was the origin?
So with this, with the first two seasons being as successful as they were being very discreet about this season. I got it in my inbox. This was like right after the writer's strike had ended and the actor strike had ended. Maybe a couple weeks later, I got the audition and it was labeled The Secret Garden. Was what came in my inbox. And I was like, okay. And then I saw written and directed by Mike White. And I was like, okay, this is obvious. It's White Lotus. And there was no scripts. I mean, they had finished scripts, but they didn't let us read it. It was just 3 audition scenes. And there was a 1-sentence log line about Saxon. There was nothing about what the story was of the season or the arc or anything. It was just that he was a Southern finance bro that worked under his father and was a complete flirt. I think that was the log line, something along those lines. And so I got the 3 audition scenes. I read them and I had no context. So one of the first audition scenes was me. I mean, you guys all just watched the last episode, but have you? If hopefully you're familiar with the rest of the season. The first audition scene was episode 1, where I'm laying in bed with my brother, and but at that time I still didn't even know he was my brother, and I'm talking about how this person is so hot, and she's obsessed with Buddhism and all of this different stuff. And I had zero idea that I was talking about my sister because I had no context for it. And afterwards, when I got the script, I was like, dude, this is insane that audition was about saying how hot my sister was. You're nuts. But I think looking back on it, I was trying to think about, why did they do that? And I think, one of the reasons was that they didn't want the scripts to go out. They didn't want people to publicize what was going to happen in the season. But 2, I think that Mike and then Meredith Tucker, who's the casting director, do this process in a very strategic way where they only give a little sliver of what the character is. And they want to see what you bring to it. I think what your ideas are and how you interpret the audition scenes and how you make it your version. Because Mike is he's very opinionated of what he wants, but he's very collaborative and he allows you to bring your own version of it. So the audition, I remember my brother-in-law said, hey, the first couple seconds of the audition tape, the casting director is going to watch and they're going to know, okay, this guy he's right for the role, or he's the right vibe. Let me watch the rest of his tapes. Or sometimes, unfortunately, they'll watch the beginning of it and be like, no, and then they'll pass or next, because they're watching so many scenes. So he was like, you got to do something unique and different. So I did the self-tape, and the first 5 to 10 seconds of it, I walked up from the back of the audition and walked up to the camera, and I fucked the camera. And I just started flirting with the camera and kind of smiling and smirking and going like this and that. And then the 3 ladies come from the other side, and then I turn over to them and I say, "Ooh, cougars." And then I go and I take my attention to them. And they thought that was so funny that I just made the camera a character, because that's all I knew at the time was that he was a flirt. So I was just playing this kind of like, I don't know, horny flirt guy. Yeah, that's all I knew about the project at the time.
I like that character description, horny flirt guy.
I know, it sounds so ridiculous.
That's perfect.
And then I didn't know where the character was going to go. And that was, once I started to read the scripts, I've said this before, it was my biggest worry was that it was going to come off like this, just one note. And I was really nervous about playing this like over the top character of like of a finance douchey guy, because I was just like, it's fun, but it's not that interesting. And I should have never doubted Mike's writing. And then as the story went on, and I saw where there could be potential arc moments and shifts for him in body language and just his demeanor with the relationship with his siblings and with the ladies, the other girls, and just how the events in episodes 5 and 6 were a great turning point for my character.
There's so much that you do physically that is both. I mean, when I think about him at the beginning, just the way he walks, his gait, like even, there's the scene when you get up, you're sleeping, and like and just the way just he carries himself is so specific from the beginning until the end, and you really see this guy who's like untouchable to watching kind of holes and watching yearning and sadness and confusion and complexity. So tell me about figuring out that early version and like those specific things, like his walk, how he carries himself, things like that.
Yeah, it's there's moments of like I always just tried to figure out like how can I make this character while he's not having words. That was like what was really important to me, and I'm so happy Mike let me take some just some shots at doing some things that I was nervous to do. I thought maybe it'd be too much or whatever, but and he thought
like what do you think would be too much?
I could just go in order, like episode 1 when I'm getting out of the pool. It's just written as he walks over to his chair. And he starts saying, God, like these long plane rides make me so horny. And then I was like, you know what, Mike, is it fine if I go out of the pool and I stop and look at Chelsea and I adjust myself? And he was like, that's fucking hilarious. And I was like, okay. And I was like, is it fine if I'm on the pool bed, like laying and I'm, kind of touching myself? Like this is the guy that's like always constantly adjusting himself. And he was like, it's perfect. And so that was like one example. Another example is just like at the end of episode 1, it was my idea to be naked, which caused a whole uproar. And Mike always wanted it when he was in the bathroom to be naked and to have this scene where, he's looking at the porn. God, this conversation is so... without context,
it's an afternoon delight, guys.
There is a scene, and I just said, you know what? It'll really show a power dynamic between him and his little brother. Saxon doesn't care about anybody else. He doesn't have any regard for someone else in the room. It's his room, whether someone's staying it or not. And he would sleep naked, and he would walk to the bathroom, and the iPad would be in his hand on the side. It wouldn't be covering himself, and he wouldn't scurry to the bathroom. He'd power walk to the bathroom. And Mike was like, okay, if you're comfortable with it, blah, blah. And I was like, yeah, I think that's a good idea. And so we did that. And then the other thing that Mike would always say, like in the beginning, I was walking. We had scenes where I was walking, like when we got off the boat, even in the beginning. And I kind of just had a normal walk, and I got out and and we walked this, and he'd be like, you don't look rich. You don't look rich. Like that. He would yell from over the camera, and he'd walk up to me and he would go, okay, you gotta walk richer. You gotta walk richer. And I was like, okay. He's like, aren't you rich in real life? Walk rich. And I was like, okay. And then so afterwards I did it with the glasses on, and then I would go like this, just walking. And it was like almost like a strut of a model, and where he had this bounce to him and the shoulders were back. And Parker was so obsessed with that. She was always like, what part of his body does he lead with? And I was like, that's right. And so it was always like that. And so those are just physicality things that were fun. Or like at the breakfast, it was a really small part where I just would sit like this and my family's talking and I would just be flexing my pecs and watching myself and stuff, or they had a scene with a lady boy that came up and Mike thought it was so funny because then I put my chair back and I checked the lady boy out, and then I'm kind of disgusted and stuff. Like, so he just let me do what I thought would be funny. And then, other times he'd reel you in and say, no, it's too much. Mm-hmm. And, but I think the physicality and the wardrobe and the hair, every part makes a character. So we tried to build this character from multiple different angles.
he's so interesting because he's such a fascinating character on his own, and then also in the context of his family, his birth family. Was it important to Mike that the five of you spend some time together so that performance would feel very lived in?
Yeah, this was such a unique project because I'm so used to, on other things that I've done, you do table reads and you do, you do some rehearsals together, and you have a lot of time usually before you start filming. This was like you book the role, the press release goes out, and then like 2 or 3 weeks later you're in Thailand. So it was very fast, and you didn't know who else was in the show. You didn't have the scripts yet, so once we got there, we started to bond a lot as a family. And we did everything together. It was like it's one of those projects where you're all in this hotel together without anybody else. So it's just you, the cast, and the crew. 24 hours away on a 15-hour time difference. You don't have much else to do in this foreign place that you're so unfamiliar with, that you just get really close with the people that are around you. And so our family bonded a lot, and it was funny, like 2 or 3 weeks into the show, Mike was like, "Hey, do you want to get dinner tonight?" And I was like, I can't, I'm getting dinner with my family. And he was like, what the, enough with you and the family, stop hanging out, you guys don't need it, it's too much. And I was like, I'm trying to get used to them. Like I really was trying to create a fun family dynamic, but mostly it was me, Sarah Catherine, and Sam, the people that played my siblings. We got very close. I mean, we did everything together: breakfast, lunch, dinner, every day for almost 7 months. I mean, we did not leave. I came to New York for a shoot for like 2 or 3 days and then went back. But besides that, I mean, we hung out all day, every day. Mm-hmm. It was a lot. But I love them. We're so close now. So yeah.
Can we hear your best Parker Posey impression?
Oh God.
You do such a good Mike.
Mike, I have to say, Parker's more like she gets really in the body, and it's very like, and she has the lorazepam voice, and it's just Tim Piper, no, and the bottom of her mouth kind of like goes to failure, where it's just kind of like, and she, like that. It's just like kind of like quivering, and it's like, yeah, I don't know. There it is.
It's good. That was good. You guys shot this season all over, like out of order, right? Yes. I mean, how is that for you as an actor, especially with a character who really goes on a very specific journey to have to say like, okay, here's where I am now, and then you might be like in a completely different emotional place.
Yeah. We shot. So my first day was episode 1, getting out of the pool. And the second day was episode 8, which was the finale of me walking over to Chelsea with her book, and she runs into Rick's arms, and I turn my head back and I see her, right?
It's one of my favorite moments.
It's
actually.
A beautiful moment.
It's a really beautiful moment.
And it's gotten, I feel like it's like everywhere, that moment, which is so funny because when we did the scene, and this is just a great example of how great and how important it is to have a really great director and writer and stuff, was I thought about what you just said when I was filming that. I was like, okay, this is the end. This is my last real scene, besides the pina coladas and some other stuff. But it's my last scene. Like, this is a great end of the arc moment. This is a moment that I should go and I'm going to play it with these girls, and I'm going to be super sweet and flirty. And I did it the first take, and Mike came over and he was like, you're too nice. You're being too nice. And he was like, maybe let's like just be a little bit more like, standoffish and like, just like, you're nice because you're not saying one of your normal things, but don't be too nice. And maybe just throw in a line about like the book, like maybe say like, the sex stuff was pretty interesting. Like that'll be more Saxon. And I was like, okay. And he goes, and then all I want to do is I'm going to put a camera here and I'm going to have you turn and I just want to watch you watch Amy go jump into, or Chelsea go jump into Rick's arms. And I'm just going to have a camera stay there for 20 to 30 seconds. And that's going to be the moment that the audience realizes you might change. And I said, okay, got it. And so we did the scene. I walk in. I say, yeah, the sex stuff was pretty interesting. It's great. And then she goes, looks, and runs over. And then it's like that. And then that. And then you just was visualizing her. And then that was it. It's just me watching her. And then he wanted just to see the moment that, wow, maybe I want that. Maybe I want a real relationship, or maybe I want something that she has. And maybe I've been wrong, or maybe it's not all about just women and one night stands, all this. It's about something more, and she signifies and she embodies that. And so he just left the camera there for what felt like an eternity, but it was just a couple seconds, and that was the scene. And it was a really, watching it in the final cut, it's a beautiful moment because there are no words, and it's just a very slight from like smile, enjoying the moment there, to just kind of like, wow, that's beautiful over there. So it's more an internalized moment. So it was, that was the second day we kind of shot that. It was kind of weird.
I think there are a few moments where Mike holds the camera, and there's some of my I mean, obviously you're great at reading lines too, but there are these looks on your face at different points over the course of the season, like when Chelsea says you're soulless. Yeah. And it's like you can literally see inside your brain, or even when he's kind of processing like what just happened with my brother last night, and it's really, it's wonderful. Your performance is so great because you don't have the luxury of having a line to convey what he's experiencing in that moment. So did that as an actor make you like, oh, this is scary, or is that thrilling? And what did you think when you saw the takes that he used?
So the scene by the pool, when they say that you're soulless, and then the whole thing where the two girls are telling me what happened the night before, was one of my audition scenes, and it was it ended up being pretty different than what we did during the audition, but it was fun to do. It's like the nerve-wracking and scary scenes as an actor are usually the ones that are that you look back on and you're like the happiest or most proud of, or that you like the most, because it challenges you and it puts you in a different kind of state. And they're the scenes that bother you the most before shooting. You're always thinking about them, like worrying about them. But that was those were some of my favorite scenes, and it just works so well because of his writing of who this character was as the start. And just watching him quiver and just get his ego getting destroyed in front of these girls. It's just a nice turn. And it's funny to watch someone like a Saxon just melt in their chair and not know what to do and not know how to react and trying to deny it. But they're both there saying it. And then, and it's a big power shift. It's a big change of like, he's the one always asking the girls questions. He's the one always, saying stuff, this. And then now they're coming at him and he's not used to that. And he has nowhere to go with it. And so it's just like a moment of that Mike wanted to see, of like, again, like moments internalized, but and it's almost like you're trying to laugh it off and you don't know what to say and you can't say anything, and then it's like, okay, let's just forget about this, and then he goes away. It was a fun scene to film. It was great.
When you watch the series, and I know the whole cast watched the finale together and everything, and that's awesome, was there something that you observed in how Saxon was kind of assembled from these takes that felt that you were surprised by, or you were like, oh, I have this different insight into him now?
Watching it from the start to finish, I mean, it's definitely, there's more humanizing moments, and there's more reasons to enjoy and like him by the end than I thought there was going to be. And I'm surprised that people, I was surprised how much people hated him in the beginning, and then I was surprised how much people liked him in the end. I think when you're filming over 7 months, you kind of get a little bit lost in it, and you're doing things so out of order, and then you don't film for a week, and then you go back and you do this and that. You just kind of like, you're just showing up and doing the work that day. Sometimes it's hard to remember how it's all going to play. And then you just really have to trust, Mike and his writing and his choices. And, but yeah, I was definitely watching it. I was definitely surprised. And I was also like, just surprised how like, again, I don't know how biased I am and how attached I am to this project of how emotional I got during the end, even with my own scenes. So it's hard for me to say as an unbiased viewer, but yeah, I guess I was surprised of how maybe emotional it was, or how much I actually like rooted for specific characters, I guess, and myself, of just like, you feel like these people in a weird way by the end, and that's what happens when you have 10 hours of footage that you're watching. It's a lot. And, you start to really, and especially with this show, like, the number one critique is that it's slow, but it's slow because a lot of it is just conversations. It's like real dialogue between these people that helps build the characters and show you who is who and who they are, and who they thought they were. And then shit ensues. So it's like, I guess I would say I was surprised by the emotional kind of side of it.
All right, last question, since this is a room of actors. I like your tip from Chris Pratt, from your brother-in-law, about the first 2 seconds of a taped audition. What is the other single best piece of advice about acting that you've ever gotten?
Best piece of advice? Yeah, that was great advice from his side. Look, I've done auditions where I take a swing in the beginning and I don't hear back. So, I'm not saying but I do understand what he's saying about, they do know in the beginning. I had another casting director that told me that, that when you walk into the audition room, that you should be in the character, and from how you, dress to how you're sitting, your physicality, like if you're going in with that intention of being that character, the casting director knows. But I guess one of the things was on one of actually it was that second day of filming, was with Walton. I don't have many scenes with Walton Goggins. I have a couple. And we were kind of talking after the scene, and I was sitting there and I was like, I asked him about, does he get nervous? Because I get nervous with, public speaking or with some scenes and, certain things. It's just, I can't control. I get nerves. And I said, do you get nervous? And he was like, yeah. Yeah. And I was like, yeah. And then he was like, and he poked my chest, and he was like, but I never fucking question my process and my work, and I'm the one for this role. And I was like, wow. And that was it. And I was like, afterwards, and it just kind of made me think, like, it's like, it's okay to be nervous, but like the confidence and like how confidence equals competence a lot of the time. And as actors, I'm sure everyone in here, if you've done scenes, whether it's on stage or it's in tapes or when you're with the director and stuff, like, a lot of the times when I perform a scene or I take a swing, like in the back of my head, I right away think, fuck, is he going to like that? Is he not? Was that right? Was that good? Or was that over the, like there's that voice inside your head where you're constantly kind of doubting yourself. Yeah. We all do it in life, right? It's always like kind of fear of failure and stuff. And it's easier said than done to be confident. But what he reminded me there just was like that, and I have my own stuff in my head of why I get casted for stuff or why I got this role or whatever. And it was just like the fact that he said, like, I just go out there and I know what I've done ahead of time in my process and my work. And that when I show up there on the day, I'm the one for this fucking job. And I act like it. I get nervous, but I know that I'm the one. And it just kind of, yeah, it's just like a confidence boost, I guess, of going into it and just, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you were absolutely the one for the job. It's an incredible performance. Patrick Schwarzenegger, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.